In this video, I'm discussing Edge's injury from WWE. Haven't discussed this yet, so that's the main reason why I'm going to discuss that. The next guest host for Monday Night Raw coming up this Monday. A little interesting, but kind of might be idiotic as well, so I'll give my thoughts on that. A little incident that occurred at the Philippines house show Friday night. It was an ECW / Smackdown WWE house show. Something interesting happened there, so I'm going to give my thoughts on that. UFC 100 from last night. Mainly the thing I'll be discussing from there is obviously the thing everyone was looking forward to, Lesnar Mir II. To give my thoughts on some things that occurred on Raw from this past week, SmackDown as well, and a couple other things I'll probably give my thoughts on. Now, firstly, let me get to Edge's injury. Now, main reason why I'm discussing this, I haven't discussed it yet, and this is pretty much my first video I've done in about a week and a half, so I have to at least give my thoughts on that fairly quickly. And as far as Edge's injury, now I know a lot of people at first were, saying this is going to be a huge blow for the WWE Smackdown brand, and I gotta completely disagree with everyone that said that or still is saying that Edge's injury, it's a loss. Him not being there is a loss for WWE, but it isn't a huge loss where it's going to adversely affect the WWE Smackdown brand, especially now with CM Punk. CM Punk is now going to be turning to a full-fledged heel very soon, and I like the way they are booking CM Punk's heel turn. They're doing it fairly slowly, and they're doing it in stages. I think that's the best way to do it, and don't rush to have him turn heel due to the Edge being out right now. You got Chris Jericho right there, so Chris Jericho, you got Chris Jericho and CM Punk, so those are going to be two top heels right there, especially with CM Punk. If they really go as far as what they could do with CM Punk's heel turn, he could be probably one of WWE's top heels right now, and if, booked his title reign very good, he could definitely be one of WWE's top heels of this decade. That's how good he is as a heel. I like him as a face too, but he's definitely a better heel than he is as a face. So it does suck that Edge is out, but it isn't, a huge loss for WWE that's really going to hurt the SmackDown brand. Now, say if, something like, Jeff Hardy didn't, sign a new contract and they lost him, and then, there's been, conflicting reports with Rey Mysterio's contractual status with WWE, if he's going to give his notice or has he signed a new contract with WWE. Now, if you lose those three, yes, that could have a, dramatic effect to the SmackDown brand, but just one wrestler like Edge, and especially with CM Punk now transitioning to be a top heel on SmackDown, it isn't going to be the hugest loss for them, but it does suck he is out. Now, he's going to be out until January 2010. Thankfully, he's not going to be out as long as what was first reported. It was firstly reported that he was going to be out maybe for as long as a year, but then that got cut down to a January 2010 return, so that's good right there. And obviously when he returns, you can tell before he even got injured, they were about to turn him to being at face, and he's probably going to get like the Triple H type of return that Triple H had back in 2002, where when he returns, has a huge face reaction, definitely, completely switches to being a huge baby face for WWE, which I think really could work out. He's been a heel for a while, so it'd be something, different to see with him, and he's, very versatile. He can work as a heel, he can work as a babyface, and I think he's one of those wrestlers that you could say works equally as good as a babyface and equally as good as a heel as well. Most wrestlers you say, okay, this guy works better as a face, this guy works better as a heel, but I think Edge is so versatile, he can actually, do both and make both believable, whether he's a heel or a babyface. And obviously, if they ever want to have him turn back to being a heel after his babyface run from about a year, that's not going to be hard to do as well. Now, the other thing I want to discuss is this coming Monday, you're going to have another guest host for Monday Night Raw, and this is going to be the co-creator of the TV show on Adult Swim, the Cartoon Network, Seth Green. Now, most people that, as far as him not, being a co-creator of an animated show or the voice of Chris Griffin on Family Guy, most people are familiar with him from the Austin Powers series. He was the son of Dr. Evil. That's probably the most as far as people, recognize his face. That's the character people most recognize him with. And this either is going to be kind of like an interesting, maybe a little funny Monday Night Raw, entertaining, or it can be a complete flop. I'm not going to really say it's going to be like jump the shark, but it is, I will at least say that it is kind of desperate for ratings, that you're getting like a celebrity like Seth Green, and I wouldn't even, he's even like a C or D list celebrity, so it's not like someone that's, really going to generate a lot of media attention. It'll probably get a little media attention since it is a celebrity. You'll probably have, Entertainment talk about it, and you'll have Showbiz probably talk about it, but this isn't going to get like the coverage that, a Donald Trump thing or something like that, or, someone like Mike Tyson. This is just going to be, you'll see a little blurbs of it. That's as much as you're probably going to see from this, but it is kind of another desperate attempt for them to try to garner some type of ratings from this. But I do like the guest host idea for Monday Night Raw. I think they can at least draw this out to maybe right before SummerSlam or a little after SummerSlam. They definitely need to end it by the time after SummerSlam. And I think as far as the way Monday Night Raw was this past Monday, with Ted DiBiase Sr. being the guest host for Monday Night Raw, I would say his performance he did on there, if they want to have someone other than a Vince McMahon or some McMahon in general to be in the general manager for Monday Night Raw, I think Ted DiBiase Sr. could do a very good job being the general manager for Monday Night Raw. I think it would be very good, and I think he got a very good reaction this past Monday. I think that would be a good guy to have as the permanent general manager. I don't think that many people will disagree with that. Other thing I want to talk about is a little incident that occurred at the Philippines house show this past Friday. They did a ECW Smackdown house show taping there, and kind of interesting thing. Apparently there were some CM Punk and Jeff Hardy fans that actually were picking fights with each other. And then other things that occurred at this show was apparently Chris Jericho, I guess he did like he either talked very bad about people from the Philippines or something like that. Something he said in a promo that got, someone in management pissed off, not WWE management, but as far as, security for the house show, someone got pissed off at Chris Jericho's remarks and comments he made, and can't just people recognize, okay, this is just a entertainment company. Jericho's out there being a heel. He's supposed to piss people off. So if he did that, he's doing his job. The other thing with the whole Jeff Hardy and CM Punk fans fighting, that is just fucking stupid that many fans will actually be that idiotic to, pick fights over, a fucking wrestling show or two wrestlers. It's okay to, cheer, boo the wrestlers, but don't take it to that level. It's just idiotic and really, hurts, hurts the presence of what a lot of people think of wrestling fans. You do that type of stuff, the negative reaction that wrestling fans get are pretty much, obviously with that, most people think, okay, after hearing that, what they hear about wrestling fans is completely true. It just hurts, what people think about wrestling fans and wrestling as general when stuff like that occurs. The other thing is UFC 100 was last night. The main thing I'll discuss there is the three main fights that occurred. Lesnar Mir II. I thought it was a very good fight, especially me being a huge wrestling fan. I think every wrestling fan that watched this was glad to see this happen. Brock Lesnar just came in there and dominated Frank Mir. This went to the second round, and 1 minute and 48 seconds within the second round. Lesnar won by a knockout, and I think Lesnar is really, right with this fight. I think most people cannot say he is a fluke anymore. He defeated Frank Mir. Now he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of UFC. He defeated a legend, Randy Couture. What else does he have to prove? Obviously, with him being a former professional wrestler, WWE wrestler, there are obviously going to be MMA fans that are still pissed off at him. And especially last night, the way the reaction that he got from the crowd, obviously that was still there. Obviously, the thing is, people would say, all they can say about Brock Lesnar right now is, oh, he's a fake wrestler. Well, if you call Brock Lesnar a fake wrestler, and yeah, WWE is choreographed, and I guess your term fake, it is fake. But Lesnar, okay, I think, if you keep saying that, okay, this so-called fake wrestler, Brock Lesnar, was able to come in there last night and pretty much make Frank Mir his bitch for 6 minutes and 48 seconds of a fight and pretty much, just completely dominated him. Mir got a couple knees in and one or two punches, but not that much, stuff of offense did Frank Mir get in. I think it was good. Now, Brock Lesnar, he kind of had, he kind of went after the fans after the match where he was flipping them off, which Later on, Dana White made Brock Lesnar apologize. Unfortunately, Lesnar had to apologize. I don't know why he did. I think, you know, you can go with this thing, kind of like UFC did with Tito Ortiz. You know, the Huntington Beach bad boy. They did that with Tito Ortiz. And I don't see that many people complaining Tito Ortiz had that type of attitude, but since Lesnar is a former WWE athlete, professional wrestling from a stage sport, people are going to say and complain of anything about him no matter what he does and who he defeats. They're going to keep calling him a fluke no matter what, even though he's, you know, pretty much right now, you know, he's a complete beast in the UFC. I thought, you know, I already knew he would be pretty good with the UFC, and he's pretty much all his stuff he made in his first fight with Frank Mir, all the bad mistakes they made in that fight, he's pretty much learned from all his mistakes, and that's the, you know, scary thing about Brock Lesnar is he's very dominant, and right now he's pretty much learned almost all his mistakes, and if the more he keeps learning, this could be possibly one of UFC's, you know, most dominant heavyweights of all time, because I don't see him losing the title anytime soon. Oh yeah, there's one last thing I forgot to mention about the Brock Lesnar fight. It was mentioned by the commentators in here, and I think this was really a bad thing for UFC to do this, because it really, in my opinion, this is bad for marketing, and it really makes them look idiotic as far as them pretty much disparaging their UFC heavyweight champion at the moment. Now, obviously, you're going to maybe want them to mention this. Obviously, Brock Lesnar is a former WWE competitor. The one problem I had with it was that I think this really hurts them as far as marketability or whatnot with Brock Lesnar. Unless this is Dana White trying to be like a kind of genius here and telling the commentators to say this because he wants Brock Lesnar to keep getting this heel reaction. But if it's not that, and it's just for some reason Dana White wanted to go against WWE for the sake of going against WWE, it's really hurting, you know, your credibility as your UFC heavyweight champion if you keep just disparaging him by saying nothing more than, you know, he's a fake professional wrestler and somehow he's your UFC heavyweight champion. So that's another thing I just wanted to kind of rant about real quick right there. One thing I forgot to mention, so I'll just throw this in with the video. Very stupid that UFC's doing this, unless Dana White's doing this for, you know, the sake of, he knows that if they keep, you know, insisting that he's a fake wrestler, that this will keep pissing off the, you know, diehard MMA fan base, and it'll get like the reaction where Brock Lesnar would be kind of like a heel for the UFC, and people will just want to buy the pay-per-views to see him get his ass kicked. Now, if that's the sake, and that's the reason why they're doing it, I'm okay with it, but it really hurts their, you know, marketability. It really makes them stupid that they're pretty much disparaging their World Heavyweight Champion. And the other fights that happened on there, the GSP and Alves fight was good. I thought the second or third round was kind of tad bit boring, and you pretty much tell this was going to be a fight that was going to be dragged out to the 5 rounds, and it'll go to decision with GSP retaining the welterweight championship. The Henderson and Brisbane fight was pretty good. I definitely was glad to see Brisbane get knocked out in that fight, and everything else decent at best. But I think the 3 fights definitely delivered a very good mixed martial arts showcase, and definitely enjoyed UFC 100. Probably the thing I'm looking forward to more as far as the mixed martial arts world goes is Strike Force coming up on August 15th, the Karana and Cyborg fight. And I think this is one of the fights that I've been looking forward to a while, and thankfully it's finally going to be happening. And anyone that's a fan of Karana and Cyborg and want to see the press conference, it's going to be happening this coming Tuesday on StrikeForce.com. They're going to be streaming it on their site at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And anyone that's, you know, interested in the press conference for that, it's going to be airing right there. As far as Monday Night Raw from this past Monday, I thought it was, you know, a very enjoyable Monday Night Raw. You had very good matches on there. I thought this was probably one of WWE's better Raws. They've been actually booking some pretty good Raws within the last couple weeks, I got to say. Even with the whole Donald Trump thing involved, I thought that was, you know, an enjoyable Raw. This past Monday Night Raw, you saw some good action. You saw, you know, a solid main event with Triple H and John Cena. Obviously, it went to no contest, and what it went, and obviously we're going to be seeing a triple threat at the Night of Champions pay-per-view with Randy Orton involved. So at least you're not going to be seeing Triple H and Randy Orton in a one-on-one match, but you see John Cena involved, so that could help it out a little bit, and I expect them to pretty much rehash WrestleMania 24, where Triple H or John Cena are going to hit one of their finishers on each other, go for the pinfall, and Randy Orton's going to punt kick them and pretty much get the cheap victory that way. I see it just happening the same exact way, because I don't see Triple H winning the title here. I don't see Triple H. Triple H winning the title until probably SummerSlam, or maybe they'll drag this all the way out to the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, since that's probably where the feud's going to pretty much culminate and is the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to be probably seeing another 2 to 3 months of Triple H and Randy Orton action. Hopefully, after that, they do a little something fresh. But I did enjoy the Randy Orton-Ted DiBiase Jr. match. That was very good. Probably the best match on Monday Night Raw was that. Definitely glad to see Ted DiBiase Jr. They're starting to utilize him very well, and definitely can't wait to see him turn as a full-fledged face at some point. The Kofi Kingston and Evan Moore match was even pretty good. Gail Kim in the women's match, I think she got some pretty good offense, and she got showcased very well. So overall, Raw was pretty good. As far as SmackDown, SmackDown had its hits or misses with it, but it had an excellent main event with Rey Mysterio versus Chris Jericho. Really enjoyed it. It was probably equally as good as their pay-per-view matches, if not maybe a little better than one or two of their pay-per-view matches. I think their best, pay-per-view match was just recently at the Bash pay-per-view. I think that's their best match, but these two right here, they have really not put on anything worse than a 3.5-star match. I think not that many people would care to see. I think most people wouldn't care if WWE kept booking these two against each other for another year, because these two can work so good against each other and have so many great matches that'd be one time people wouldn't be complaining that, oh, this feud's lasting too long, stop it. I don't think people would complain at that happening, unlike, Triple H and Randy Orton. And that's pretty much all I wanted to come on here, give my thoughts on Edge's injury, little thing that happened at the Philippines house show, UFC 100, and Raw Smackdown, and the guest host for Monday Night Raw coming tomorrow night. Like I said, tomorrow night's Raw, it could either be one of the entertaining Raw, or it could be a completely atrocious and terrible Raw. So yeah, that's it for my thoughts on wrestling and UFC 100. Peace.